but it was exciting. I always dreamt of having my own business. It was kind of slow at first, but things started picking up. We had big plans. But in our wildest dreams, we never thought we'd have this much work. Yeah, with so many businesses caught off guard by the storm, Reed Waste Management has never been busier.
What will become of your business after a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now, before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
Major key alert! Don't ever play yourself. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com.
Stay focused. Now that's a major key alert.
Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
Fox Sports Radio 1400, WCOS Columbia, an iHeart radio station.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set! Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle once again. Happy Monday. Hope you're doing well. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, hanging out with us on fantastic radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands, Sports Radio 100.1 The Fan in the Florence area, and 9:20 a.m. in the Low Country down in Manning. Welcoming everybody into the program. And today, out of the gate, the special guest, John Sacchetta. You may not know his name, but he was the assistant athletic director for game management and promotions at Clemson University dating back to 1986. And his book, Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tiger, is a story told by the Clemson Tiger mascots. And what an awesome opportunity to celebrate those guys whose stories might otherwise be untold right now.
Yeah, it was a fun little adventure for about 6 months back in 2014, and then 2015 started to go out and sell it, to the general public at IPTAY meetings and then through Facebook and everything like that. So yeah, the book's been out 5 years now, through 4 editions, which you update after each year. A couple pages here or there, depending on how many mascots they had that year. So it's a lot of fun, though, I can tell you that.
And looking back, the Clemson mascot dating back to the 1950s. Prior to that, as you are aware, what was done just in terms of, game day environment, et cetera, at Clemson?
Well, in the early days, it's basically it was a football game, and the band, and that was it, and then as time progressed, you bring in the mascots, in the 50s, and, now you got animated characters out there. And then, you got the country gentleman, you got somebody firing a cannon, and then you get to what you got today. It's a huge event. So, yeah, everybody adds to the piece of the pie, as I used to tell people. And, the mascot is a big piece of the pie in some eyes. Other people look at the football game, other people look at the band. But it's all entertainment. It all makes it worth your trip to Clemson on a football Saturday in the fall, and then also the spring game. So it's the mascots have been a great addition. A lot of comedy for the youngsters and sometimes for the parents, depending on on the situation of the game.
John Cicetta with us here on Clemson Sports Talk today, talking about Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tiger, a fantastic book, taking a look at Clemson's mascot history. So, John, let's back up just a little bit here and talk about your arrival at Clemson. I do want to get into your life in sports at some point during our conversation today, but when did you arrive at Clemson and what brought you to Tiger Town initially?
Well, I was hired in August 22nd, 1986, and my interview had taken place a month prior, and I knew about Clemson through soccer, the soccer team and Coach Ibrahim in 1979 when they lost to Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, and that's where I was going to college at the time. So I knew Clemson as a soccer school as the other football there is, and so when I got on campus and saw the football stand, I go, wow, this is amazing. Never expected it. And, so I come on board in 86, and the first thing is they tell me, well, you're going to be working with the cheerleaders and the mascots. And I had no clue what I was getting involved with back then because, I was just here to do game management and promotions and create a new excitement at ball games. And next thing you know, you got cheerleaders you're working with the mascot, you're working with the band, and because I was a new kid on the block. So I got everything. And but you find out it's a lot of fun when you work with other groups that you're not expecting. And, the mascots, the cheerleaders, the band were all great to work with for 26 years.
So I'm thinking back, 1986, Clemson would have just finished, I guess, tacking on the second upper deck in 84. And so the stadium was pretty much what it is today, minus the West Zone, which was a huge undertaking. But from that standpoint, 1986 game day atmospheres, what was that like, maybe even compared to where it was when you retired and where it is today?
Well, the first couple of years I was down on the field. The first probably 7 or 8 years I was down on the field because Len Goff was our associate AD and he was running everything upstairs. So I was just doing the on-field introduction. And then when Len left Clemson, I took over going upstairs, and I hired the students down on the field to do all the intros for us. But yeah, so it was, back there in the 90s, when you first started playing music, and we really started at baseball games before football. But once we got into football, you're trying to balance with the band, the atmosphere of the game, because if you watch a lot of pro sports, and a lot of people probably watch the Michael Jordan series that was just recently on, and great announcers do not talk at the end of the ball game. Well, in athletics, there's time when you let the crowd make their noise. There's a time when the band performs, and then all of a sudden we're going to say, wow, let's play some music. So it was interesting those early years trying to coordinate all that into the new system of atmosphere. But you had some problems, hiccups here and there, but it's nothing like it is today, because today the script is 10 pages for a game, where a lot of times when we first started, I could just look out and see the band director getting ready to play. I knew he wanted the timeout, you let him play. Sometimes if I felt a song we could play might enhance the environment, I would jump out there before the band. But a couple of times I might have stepped on them, which I apologize for, because the band do a great job. I mean, they are underrated, the amount of time they put in, and just to go out and watch them practice sometime, especially when they first get on campus for a couple of weeks, you really appreciate what they do. But those hot fall days, the band director doesn't mind giving you a timeout because it gives his students a chance to rest, especially with those uniforms on sometimes. So, it gets to be a win-win situation for everybody. They get to rest, and you get to play some music.
John Cicetta, he was the assistant AD of game management and promotions at Clemson University, beginning back in 1986. And, of course, I know, as you mentioned, you're a big Saluki guy, but in 1987, right after you get on campus, Clemson soccer, the team that you mentioned earlier, won a national championship. And obviously, I think fans correlate the Clemson mascot to football and basketball and baseball. Was that also a part of the duties of said mascot at the time?
Yes, mascots went to everything back then. And again, we only had one tiger when I got here in '86, and until we added the cub in '94, it's just one person and a backup doing everything. And and then back then, we started doing more off-campus appearances, weddings, the egg festival, a parade someplace else around the state, and I started developing. The Tiger Cub comes in. You're doing more and more appearances. So now they got like 6 or 8 students who have to do the appearances, and they're doing almost 500 a year, which is insane.
Wow.
And that's because of the popularity of the university and the mascots themselves, because they create their own image and people want them there. But at a university, winning helps. But yeah, it's a job for the mascots now. It's not just being entertainers. You are dragged all over the state, make an appearance, and now you're even dragged all over the country doing commercials for ESPN and all these other advertisers out there, which great for Clemson University, had that publicity.
The book is Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tiger by the Clemson mascots and friends telling their stories. John Cicetta on the line. John, you brought up the Cub. What was the thought process behind bringing on a newer mascot, into the fold?
It was something to reach out to the young Clemson fans, the 5 and under. Basically, you've got the mascot for the adults in the Tiger, but it's like, okay, how do we reach the young Clemson fans? That 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, which way they're going to lean? They're going to lean towards Clemson. They're going to become a Carolina fan, So, get him there a little bit earlier. Oh, yeah, okay, I want to be a Tiger. And so it's basically trying to convince people to promote their, or it was for us to promote the Tiger Cub, to get people to join IPTE as a youngster, as a collegiate club member later on. And so it got at the young fan at day one. As soon as they're born, okay, let's sign them up for the Tiger Cub Club and begin their trip to Clemson, and as a student, and then hopefully as a graduate, an alum, and keep the cycle going. So it was one of that. But the amazing thing is, I was up in Illinois on vacation 4th of July, and I came back, and Bobby Robinson and them said, we got a new mascot. I said, okay, great, and you're in charge, and you got to design it. So I had no clue how to do that. So, and that's when I asked a couple of the administrative assistants, secretaries, say, help me out with this. And I knew the shoes were important. So Disney was an easy idea there. Just look at Mickey Mouse. We started out with the bib overalls, purple, because purple was the new color, going back to the old school colors. The bib overalls was from the 70s and 80s, when the students and the cheerleaders and, mascot used to wear the orange bib overalls that you could find down at Judge Callis, probably, and some of the other stores downtown. And so you bring in the bib overall. So it kind of worked out pretty good. Now, the problem was finding a student to be the mascot in the middle of summer, because as you know, there's nobody on campus in the summertime.
Right.
But I just happened to go by one of the local establishments downtown and said, oh, yeah, I got a guy who works for me. And so he showed up. He was 5'4", 5'5", whatever. And Jay Williams, and I said, Jay, I needed somebody to be a mascot. So I convinced him to do it. Now, Jay was already working at the game room. He was working at Manifest Records. He was working for WSBF radio on campus.
Right.
And he was also a teaching assistant. So he already had 4 jobs. I just threw one on top of him. So it was amazing that, by coincidence, I found the right person, the right time. He jumped in his suit, did it for 2 years, did a great job. And amongst all that, Jay was also working on his master's degree. He already had an undergraduate degree and a master's. He was working on a second master's, if not mistaken. So, Jay was well disciplined in doing a lot of things.
Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tigers, the book. John Cicetta on the line. You mentioned the shoes. It's funny you brought that up. I was going to ask you about that, because the Tiger mascot currently, if I'm correct, does not have shoes. It's its own sneakers. has there ever been a point where that's been considered for the tiger to have, feet, shoes, whatever you'd call it?
No, it never was. The tennis shoes they wear really tells you which mascot's in the suit. If you look closely, you can see how old the shoes are, which style they wear, and they wearing last year's Nikes, this year's Nikes. So if you see a couple mascots the same size, you might not know who they are, but if you look at the feet, you can tell. And that was evident.
Okay.
It was evident the year when President Barker first jumped in a suit. He jumped in a suit, never put it on before. Now he's standing on the sideline, not doing anything. But if you looked at his feet, you could tell that's not the regular tiger. So that's the giveaway sometimes for who the mascots are. But no, the big shoes, it makes it kind of difficult to walk around in, and so you can't move as fast around the field or at the ball, baseball stadium or a basketball court or wherever you want to be. So it kind of slows you down. So yeah, you don't want to do both the same. You got to be different. And I like the look of the mascot with the bigger eyes and everything, and just the regular tennis shoes. It's still a human being in there, but you really don't know it until you look into their eyes sometimes.
John Cicetta on with us here on Clemson Sports Talk. One of the things that I feel like, from my standpoint, growing up as a kid that followed Clemson football, even though the mascot's face has changed to some degree over the years, I don't know that it's ever been done so significantly, at least in my lifetime, that I went, oh my goodness, what'd they do to the mascot? Do you ever worry when you're making changes like that and adjustments that you're going to catch a lot of flack from people about how it looks and feels?
Yeah, you do, but you make the changes for safety reasons. It's like right now, the eyes used to be a piece of glass. And from 85 up through 2014 or 15, somewhere around there. And then they went to mesh for the eyes for the tiger. And that's allowed more air into the suit because, it's so hot and there's a little hole on top of the head to let air out. But, this gives them a little bit more visibility, but gives them also a little bit more air to come into the suit. And again, when it's 9 degrees outside and you don't have a place in a parade to stop, walk over and get something to drink or something, you need as much air coming into the suit as possible, and also let the heat out of the suit. And in this case here, the headgear. So, it does change. It has to change, but I don't know if we ever go back to the fangs that you used to see in the early suits in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
That would be scary to see those suits today. But no, it's a ferocious tiger. It looks good, and it's very functional. It's easy to get the head on and off. If Lee Corso could wear the head for a couple of appearances through his career of wearing all the helmets, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good look and a good feel, I think, for the university.
Are there, is there any conditioning at all, air conditioning or not? I've seen them with little fans inside. I mean, do the helmets have any apparatuses like that at all?
My understanding, the Disney characters have that, but we do not have that. The closest we came to that was for a year, we tried putting water shoulder pads on the students underneath the suit. But once it was cold, and then once it warmed up, all they were doing was wearing weight. So we eliminated that because it was just too heavy for them. But that was the closest to putting any type of air conditioning in the suit was when we had some water ice packs, I would call them. But then once it got warm,
Yeah. One of the things I would add too, John, that I think is unique, you mentioned how the tiger looks. It is a more realistic version of a tiger than a lot of mascots, whether they be tigers or whatever. They can almost become caricatures. In the history of Clemson, when you look back at the mascot, and again, the book Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tiger, it's always come across as a more realistic version. Do you know the story on why it wasn't more caricatured or cartoonish and why it's always sort of been so realistic?
I do not. know that answer, but I would guess that, when that first mascot picked one up in Fife Fieldhouse and, put it on and, hey, we like this look. No one's ever questioned it. Hey, we want a more cartoonish type of mascot, which I'm glad they didn't do that because, every school's got to be unique. And if we're the closest to the real tiger out there right now, it's a great look for the current students who put on the suit. And we're different than, Mike the Tiger at LSU or the mascot of University of Missouri and everything like that. Our color looks different. It's just a more functional suit. So, I hope they never go to the cartoon character. And then, some of the schools like Nebraska has the inflatable mascot. Right. It's like, no, you don't want to put a student in that. And I've seen that before at some other schools. That doesn't look good. But no, this is a good-looking tiger. The funny thing is, the question you always get is, well, what's the tiger's name? The tiger. Well, you don't have a name? No, it's just the tiger. And, it's a tiger cub. It doesn't have to have a name. It doesn't need to be called Mike or Phil or Joe or John or Lawton or whoever. It needs to be called the tiger. And so just to keep that as the name is pretty cool.
Listen, there's no...
Wants to help with a chance at $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword family to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's family to 200-200. Now, Columbia's most dependable traffic, sponsored by Pope Davis Tire and Automotive, home of the best tire prices in Columbia, guaranteed. Fox Sports Radio 1400 traffic.
Look at traffic shows a wreck on Green Turf Lane at Northern Dancer Lane. Also an accident on Kennedy Road at 1 Under Lane. I'm Rob Sanders. You can reach out to me on the 103.5 FM WVOC traffic tip line 343-1055.
This report is sponsored by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
iHeartMedia knows small businesses across the country are facing new challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic. So to help, we've put together the iHeartRadio Small Business Crisis Resource, which has critical information, including links to federal and state resources providing businesses with stimulus loans, grants, and other financial aid. We also shine a spotlight on small businesses doing good right now. Visit smallbusinesscrisisresource.com to learn more. That's smallbusinesscrisisresource.com, because your small business is big to us.
When you get in your car, you need the best directions to get where you want to be.
Will arrive at your retirement in 8 years.
The same is true for your retirement. You need a voice to guide you along the way. Join Pat Struby for Save Your Retirement with Pat Struby. Pat's 18 years of experience can help make your retirement journey feel like a drive down easy street.
Arriving at your retirement.
Saturdays, 6 a.m. on Fox Sports Radio, and Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 9 on 560 WVOC for Save Your Retirement with Pat Struby.
Attention SSI recipients. If you did not file a tax return last year and have children under 17, you must act now to get the $500 economic impact payment per child. If you do not act by May 5th, you must wait until next year to get those payments. Go to irs.gov and enter your information in the non-filer tool by May 5th. That's irs.gov. This message produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I am your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
More than 8,000 children in South Carolina need a caring adult to serve as their voice in family court. The time guardian ad litem volunteers spend investing in these children can change their lives forever. To volunteer, you must be 21 years old, able to pass a background check, and passionate about serving children. Become a guardian ad litem volunteer today and make a difference for tomorrow. For more information on how you can help, visit scgal.org. That's scgal.org.
Welcome back to Clemson Sports Talk. Join the show in the chat room at clemsonsportstalk.com. Come on.
We are back on the show that shakes the Southland. Lawton Swan, John Cicada joining the program to talk about his book, Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tiger. And John, I look back and I think about how unique the silence, the aspect of it, where they don't speak and what it must be like to go through an entire game day in silence while everybody else around you is being so passionate and celebrating and talking to you. Is that one of the hurdles that really kind of hits these guys when they get in the suit that, hey, you can't talk?
Yeah. They're not supposed to talk, and, 99% of the time you will not talk. Now, in the suit we had where the eyes, there was little holes where the eyes were, you can put your two fingers in there and grab and say, you will answer when I'm asking you a question, you as the advisor, whoever. Sometimes you have to get their attention, say, I need an answer. Whether you're hot in this suit or whatever, or can you do this appearance or can you do that? So sometimes you have to put your fingers in, hey, give me an answer. But that's just between you and that person. No one else is going to hear that the mascot talk. But yeah, they're told not to talk. And then, write it down if you got to, if you need an answer, let them write it down on a piece of paper or something. But one of the great stories in the book, and it's Martin Lowry's story, and it's back in 87, 88, and he's at a soccer game, and a little girl walks up to him and pulls a tail and says, I know where you live. And, Martin just shakes his head, no, you don't know where I live, and he keeps pulling, I know where you live, and he shakes his head, no, again, and the girl keeps on doing it. It's like, I know where you live. And he's like, you shrug your shoulders, like, where do you, like, okay, where do I live? And she points to his dorm room. And Martin lived in the SAE dorm right next to the soccer stadium. He used to hang the suit outside the dorm room. He says, I live right there. So it's like, here you got to laugh, but you can't laugh. You want to say something to the child, but you can't. So they're tempted to talk at times, and that was one of the great stories in the book. And that's what's good about the book, because these are the 80 students who represented the university, for the last 60 plus years. And, they can tell you what it's like to be in the suit at a particular event, because everybody's watching you as a Tiger, but you're also watching everybody else. So it's the reverse angle of what they see and what they got to do, and how they moved around the stadium from one sideline to the other, going to see family up in the stands, or the fraternity brothers, or, just fooling around with a coach, their travel with the team, sometimes with a coach going to an FK event. They have a lot of great stories, and, the book could have been 500 pages, could have been 1,000. It's not. I wish it was. Take a lot more time to write it, but the stories are what people need to hear, because it's history. And, that's what everybody likes is about Clemson and all these other schools, is the history of the school. And that's what draws you to it and keeps your interest. And I think as people hear this book through your broadcast, they're going to say, yeah, I remember that game. I remember that event. And I didn't realize, the mascot saw it in a different angle, and everything like that. Which,
now, John, what happened? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what happens to the old suits? I mean, do the guys get to keep any of this stuff? What happens ultimately with the uniforms?
Well, the Tiger suit will wear out within 5 years. And so if you see a Tiger wearing a T-shirt or a jersey, that's to protect the stomach, because so many people pull on them. But, they get washed so much that they're going to wear down. The suits really have no value after 4 or 5 years, absolutely none. So they somehow disappear. And, some farmer mascots have, a pair of hands, or the tail, the body, the headgear, but no one has the complete suit. You know, they might have pieces here and there, but
The
you know,
Frankenstein. Yeah.
yeah. And for the last 20 years, they've been getting they get to keep the gloves or the Tiger Cubs shoes when they graduate. They get a pair, and then they get their football jersey or their basketball jersey when they were a mascot. So they get that as their little keepsake. And some might have got a tail that over the years fell apart. But yeah, they start getting some little momentums of when they were the Tiger. And when we did the reunion, I had extra gloves and tails, so I made sure everybody had at least a little bit of a uniform, especially if you were prior to the year 2000. So now, everybody's got something to put in their house or in their office.
John, I think about the role that the mascot also plays with the cheerleaders, but I'm assuming because you are over game management and promotion, it's a separate kind of deal. But how much overlap is there, and how do you coordinate that on your end?
Well, the early years, the Tiger was a cheerleader, so the Tiger came out of the cheerleading group, and then they started having separate tryouts just for the Tiger. So, but you meet with your mascot once a week or every other week, whatever and say, hey, we got this game. What are you thinking about doing? Just so you know what's in their mind, so that you can put it on the video board. You can put it on Paul Vision. You can say, okay, mascot's going to be doing this. Get it on. Take this picture. Which brings me to the game against Florida State, when Florida State got in trouble for shoes at a local department store, if you remember.
Yes.
And so they come to campus, and I was instructed to instruct the mascots not to embarrass the university and make fun of Florida State for having this little problem with these shoes.
John, I tell you what, let me press pause because I got a feeling this is going to be a lengthy story. Taking a look at the free shoes university deal with Clemson and Florida State. We're talking with John Cicetta, again, the book Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tiger. We're going to be sharing a lot of these stories with you here on the show that shakes the Southland. It is a great partnership and a great opportunity for you to hear so many of those wonderful memories, covering the things that took place both in and outside of Death Valley, Riggs Field. The list goes on and on, Doug Kingsmore Stadium. And again, John Cicetta did a fantastic job in his role as the assistant athletic director for game management and promotion, helping take the Tiger, its antics, and occasionally maybe some things that he hoped didn't happen that took place even after his watchful eye. But we'll finish the story with John Cicetta here on the show that shakes the Southland. It is Clemson Sports Talk right after this.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Attention all women who have been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Johnson & Johnson's baby powder and shower-to-shower talcum products have been linked to ovarian cancer. In February and May 2016, Johnson & Johnson was ordered to pay $72 million and $55 million by two juries to two women who contracted ovarian cancer after years of using talcum baby powder products. If you or a family member has been diagnosed with ovarian cancer and used talcum powder prior to the diagnosis, call Talcum Powder Help Now today at 800-833-0112. You may be entitled to substantial compensation. The consultation is free and you'll pay nothing unless there is a recovery in your favor. Don't fight this alone. If you or a loved one used talcum baby powder-based products before being diagnosed or died from ovarian cancer, call Talcum Powder Help Now at 800-833-0112. 800-833-0112. 800-833-0112.
Paid for by Bar Justice.
Hi, I'm Alicia Kaufman Quinton. My daddy, Billy Kaufman, opened Kaufman's Meat Plant at our present location in 1955. My family still works hard every day to ensure fresh quality cuts of beef, pork, and poultry. How about a tasty T-bone, ribeye, or New York strip steak? But to order at Kaufman's Meat Place, just look for the signs near the intersection of US 1 and I-20 in Lexington. Call us at 356-0076 to place your order. Kaufman's Meat and Place, when you want the very best your money can buy.
Live from the $1,500 Instant Rebate AAA Heating and Air Weather Center.
Tonight we'll see a few scattered showers with lows in the mid-60s. Tomorrow also a few scattered showers and highs mid to upper 80s.
For Channel 25, ABC Columbia, I'm Chief Meteorologist John Farley.
This report is sponsored by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
Not on my watch, our military service members say, as they volunteer to serve. Not on my watch, they say, as they leave their families behind to keep the rest of ours safe. As they move out, stand firm, and take fire. So not on our watch, we say, to the severely ill or injured veterans who can't get the care they deserve, the therapists they need to walk again, the treatment they need to talk again, the lifetime of day-to-day help they need to live full and independent lives. When there's no more government funding, or a nursing home seems like the only option, or everyone says there's no hope for recovery, we won't leave one warrior behind. Not on our watch. Find out how you can do your part at findwwp.org.
Ever think of light bulbs as being cool? They are if you choose energy-efficient bulbs and fixtures that have earned the government's Energy Star label. They're so hot, they're cool. Because they burn cool and last up to 10 times longer, you save money and oodles of energy. Change a light, help the environment, save some green. The solution is as close as your nearest lamp socket. Brighten your environmental future. From the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency.
This is head coach Dabo Sweeney, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who is on the front lines and to everyone who is supporting them in their fight. To our doctors, our nurses, our police force, our firefighters, our EMTs, all of our first responders, I just want to take a second to just say thank you for your service. Stay well, stay safe, and I know that you're greatly appreciated. God bless all of you.
Until that stimulus check arrives, you mind sharing your mac and cheese? Fox Sports Radio 1400. We'll bring the ramen.
It is the People's Show. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan, John Saquette on the line. Okay, John, take us back. Florida State, this is during the Free Shoes University deal, and you had instructed the Tiger not to antagonize in any way the Florida State fans, etc. But these guys were going off a little bit on their own.
You know, I did my job. I told them, and then the next thing you know, 3/4 of the way through the game, here comes two mascots walking from the student body is behind our bench all the way to the Florida State band. They did their little routine in front of the Florida State band, and they went back towards the student section to get out of their uniform. And the uniform they did, they put on the jailbird uniforms like they were, criminals. And then all of a sudden, I got someone yelling at me, so why are the mascots on the video board wearing these outfits? And I had no clue. But, somebody convinced them to do it the night before, so they did it. And so I'm getting yelled at. And, I said, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I didn't see it happen. I was focusing somewhere else. And
right.
The problem is we didn't tell the camera guys not to put it. And the camera guy put it on the video board because he thought, well, must be okay if the mascots are doing it, and I'm thinking, oh, please. So we got yelled at. And when you read the book or if you hear during the story of the book, the word advisor, that is me and the mascot getting yelled at by somebody, which, it's all part of it. And, it's all fun when you look back at it. Maybe at that point in time, it wasn't sportsmanlike. But, they are students. They're supposed to be creative, supposed to be funny. And sometimes, it's nowhere near what you see at Duke basketball games in the day, back in the, 80s and 90s.
Right.
But it's still comic relief, It's clean, fun, but sometimes, you might get somebody mad. I mean, like one mascot gets his tail full of water, because it's a rainy day, and it throws the water up into the visiting stands, so that you're going to get a letter for that, because, your mascot got us wet while it's raining, but it's all part of it,
John
It's like,
Cicada,
why
again, the
why
book.
am I getting yelled at?
Yeah, right? The book, Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tiger. All right, John, let's talk a little bit about your life in sports real quick, and ultimately, how you end up arriving at Clemson. But let's go back as far as we can, really, in your mind's eye. When were you first actively either involved in sports or really remember following sports as a kid?
Well, when I was in high school, I used to have to change the marquee outside the high school, upcoming events and all that kind of stuff. So basically it got me into, signage, which would be a big part of my career because of the video boards. But, most people grow up being hunting fishermen. Other people play sports. Other people go play the piano or whatever. I didn't hunt and fish. I didn't play any instruments. So I, played baseball growing up, and then track, and living 45 miles from St. Louis. You can always ride into St. Louis, watch the Cardinals play, or the Blues, or the football Cardinals at the time. So we were always going to sporting events. And when we were young, 16, 17, you got a car, and let's go to ball games. So we go to ball games all the time in St. Louis. And then I went to Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, right outside St. Louis, 15 miles outside, and just started volunteering for the athletic department there, doing little events here, trying to sell some tickets. We had no football there where I went to. You said Chalupas before. We're the Cougars. We're their sister school to Southern Illinois, Carbondale. So I helped AD out there, and then next thing you know, the University of Illinois opens an office, fundraising office in St. Louis. I volunteered and helped that person out for a couple of years while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I almost became a teacher, and I guess I have to credit the University of North Carolina for not being a teacher, because I had tickets to the Final Four in New Orleans, and I was going through my student teaching, and I was going to miss 2 days of classes, and my advisor says, you can't miss. You got to do your 40 days all in a row. I said, I've had tickets to the Final Four for 8 months in New Orleans. I'm going. Got a hotel, got a train ticket. We took the city of New Orleans train from Illinois down to New Orleans. Just can't do it. I said, well, sorry, I'm doing it. I walked out the office and never went back in. Basically quit student teaching on the spot. Go down and see North Carolina beat Georgetown. So, a year later, up at Western Illinois in a graduate program for sports administration. From Western Illinois, I end up at the University of Illinois in Champaign doing my graduate internship, which is the year after Illinois went to the Rose Bowl in '84. So I was at Illinois '84, '85. Then I went down to Eastern Illinois the next year, '85, '86. And our quarterback was Sean Payton, the head coach for the Saints.
Okay.
So and here's where the promotion part came into everything. I did a make-believe TV football game between Western Illinois and Eastern Illinois. Because at that time in the 80s, they were no longer on TV because television was just looking at the big schools. So the 1AA schools got shut out. So I had called CBS, hey, can you help me promote this? No. NBC, no. ABC, no. But, you could call ESPN. So I called ESPN. And this is like year 6 of ESPN, before they were who they are today. And Mike Soltis was the promotion guy for them. And he says, yeah, I'll send you some hats and T-shirts. And so we did a banner contest and took some highlights from that and shipped them up to ESPN via FedEx the next day. And it makes what would be their top 10 today. The cool thing about it was Tom Neese was one of the announcers for ESPN at the time. He says, yeah, I remember East Illinois. I said, we played them in 1978 for Division 1AA championship, because he went to Delaware and Eastern Illinois had beaten them. And so, that got the national news and all the newspapers around the country. And that was my resume for Clemson when I came down here in '86. And, and then the first person I meet down here, first coach I meet is Coach Ibrahim. And I told him I went to school, and then he told me why SIU won and how SIU won, and he had a better team and all that. And it was so neat to have that relationship with Coach Eve, because here I'm from the soccer school, and he's 2-time national champion and got to be here in '87 and help put that event on. when we won a championship here at Riggs Field. So that was really neat.
We hit a quick break. We come back with more of the show that shakes the Southland. Going to be really fun catching up with John Cicada. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put that interview on hold, and we'll catch up with that at the top of the hour, an hour two, because we got about 13 minutes left with Cicada here on the program. It's been a lot of fun.
About the big guy? Well, let me tell you, when you're buying a car, you don't need that. What you need to do is head down to Orangeburg to my good friends at Ferry Chevrolet Cadillac. 4 generations of family-owned business right there at Ferry Chevrolet. No dock fees, no tricks, straightforward pricing in a low-pressure environment you'll love. Check them out online, ferrychevrolet.com, or call them 803-536-1600. It's Ferry Chevrolet Cadillac, just a short 30-minute drive off of exit 145A in Orangeburg.
Kirk Commercial Construction is a licensed general contractor in South Carolina. Since 2011, Chris Kirk, a Columbia native with 20 years of construction experience, has believed in meeting his customers' needs. Kirk Commercial Construction is capable of performing any retailer office expansion, new construction, metal building, or commercial renovation work. In addition to Kirk's commercial construction projects, their service division can assist you with commercial and maintenance tasks. If you need it done right, call 803-250-2495 or kirkcommercialconstruction.com.
There's been a lot of talk lately about social distancing, but what does it mean? It means staying home as much as possible, especially if you're sick, staying at least 6 feet away from others while in public, and avoiding large gatherings. Also, don't forget to wash your hands often and to cover your cough or sneeze. Remember, be smart, stay 6 feet apart. Protect yourself and others. Learn more at scdhack.gov/COVID-19.
Tiger fans, look no further than the Tiger Sports Shop in Clemson for all your game day needs. Since 1974, they've brought you everything Clemson for the Clemson fan. With quality brands such as Nike, Antigua, Cutter & Buck, and Champion, plus many more. From hats to t-shirts to tailgate, the Tiger Sports Shop has all the Clemson gear a true Tiger fan needs. With 2 convenient game day locations in Tigertown, shop where I shop at Dr. I.M. Ibrahim's Tiger Sports Shop. They fuel the passion of Tiger fans everywhere. Check them out online, tigersports.com.
Hey, check this out. I didn't realize the deadline was coming up so quickly. Here's the scoop. If you did not file a tax return last year and have kids under 17, you must act now to get the $500 economic impact payment per child. I know there are a lot of people who can use this money right now. Make sure to get it done by Tuesday, May 5th to get your payment in 2020. Go to irs.gov and enter your information in the non-filer tool by Tuesday, May 5th.
Every home has things it needs, things that need to be maintained, fixed, or replaced. The Home Depot is here to help you get it done. You can easily find what you need on our app, order it online with the push of a button, and have it brought to your door with free delivery on over 1 million items. We have the essentials you need, the online know-how you may need to do it yourself, and low prices that make it all possible. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.
I'm Oscar Ramirez, and I host the Daily Coronavirus Update, a daily podcast bringing you the latest on what to know about the global pandemic we are facing. There's a lot of information going around about how the virus is spreading, possible treatments, and best practices to keep you and your family healthy. It's more important than ever to follow this fast-moving story and avoid misinformation, so you can keep up to date and make informed decisions. iHeart Radio is #1 for podcasts, but don't take our word for it. Find the Daily Coronavirus Update on the iHeart Radio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sensory sensitivity, repetitious behavior, lack of eye contact. You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Fox Sports Radio 1400. Online at foxsportsradio1400.com. On your phone with the iHeart Radio app and on hundreds of devices like Alexa, Google Home, Xbox, and Sonos. An iHeart Radio station.
It is the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk. And again, the book, Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tiger, John Cicada. Fantastic catching up with him. We actually got about 13 more minutes of that interview, and we'll run that at the top of the hour to make sure we get that in. William Qualkenbush coming up at 5:20. And golly, it's so much to get into there. Former Tiger mascots were chatting me up over on social media and saying, hey, man, John's impact on Clemson is immense, and people just don't know how much he was involved in. This comes from T. Suber, who's one of the former mascots, and T's mentioned in the book as well. But T brings up the stories about how, John's influence on Military Appreciation Day. And we'll have to get John back on the program just to talk about that in and of itself. I mean, one of the great things about what we are going to do with this series is over the next several weeks, in addition to the interviews and the My Life in Sports stories and the things we've been doing, one of the things we're going to try to do is bring you chapters and pieces and parts of this book. And John, in the voice of your Clemson Tigers in Death Valley, Dale Gilbert, actually does the reading. But we've got those available for you, and we're going to share those here. And again, it is, one of those aspects of being a student and being invested in a program that a lot of people don't get a chance to do. A lot of people can't do it. And so it's a small fraternity of individuals who have done and had the opportunities to wear the mascot suit. And ultimately, whether you are a child or an adult, it's hard not to smile and not to laugh and not to have fun when the Tiger comes around. For whatever reason, I think it's sort of ingrained in us to be joyful, and even the grouchiest of us at our core want to have fun. I saw a post over on Twitter from Sanders Sullivan, who does some writing over on Clemson Sports Talk for us, and Sanders was saying that it's so difficult, even when you're wearing a mask out in public, not to smile at people, even though they can't see you. And he's right, because I think deep down, we want to show other people that we care. Deep down, we want to show compassion and support. And when you're dealing with that mascot, whether you're 9 or 90, it's still kind of fun. And I will find myself at times in the middle of a ball game, especially during the downtime, even still, trying to find and locate the Tiger and see what kind of antics he's up to. And we want to make sure that we do share those stories with you here on the show that shakes the Southland. Again, coming up in hour 2, we'll kick things off with the remainder of our interview with John Cicada. And, when I think of John, I think about Little John Coliseum. I think about North Floor. And part of his role in the promotions aspect of those operations was to pick the individuals that would participate at halftime in like a competition. Now, you didn't always have the juggling dogs or whoever, frisbee catching dogs and juggling 10-year-olds on unicycles. You didn't always have that. Occasionally you would have, especially for smaller games, you would just have like a friendly competition. And those competitions could be like a 3-point shooting contest, or maybe putting a golf ball through the length of the court. And if you made it in a hole the size of a, something that Jerry from Tom and Jerry might live in, a little mouse hole, you win, $100,000 from a local car dealership, something, who knows? But there was one time I got chosen, and it was a layup drill. And so what you had to do, you had teams, it's kind of a relay race, and I was the anchor of our relay. And the instructions were, you're supposed to make a layup on both ends of the floor. And so, it finally gets to us. I think we may have had one partner, maybe two. Anyway, I go down, and you're going on the same end of the court. So you're side by side with the person. So we might be behind by just a little bit. Neck and neck, right behind. It was close, coming down the stretch. I dribble down. I shoot my layup, no problem. the guy on the other team doesn't shoot a layup. And so now he turns and he's going the other way. And I'm like, hold up. And literally, you wouldn't think shooting a layup in the downtime would give him that much of an advantage, but he's probably near midcourt. And I'm got some ground to make up, it's safe to say. But when I was a kid, we used to play a game called Knockout. And in Knockout, you'd have a line of guys playing, shooting free throws or three-pointers, and then the guy behind you, if they scored before you, you were out. Well, one of the techniques in that game was, as the guy was going to eliminate you, instead of trying to make a shot, which you may not make, you'd throw your ball and try to knock their basketball out of the way. That skill could not have come in hand. Could have come for me at a better time. This kid's going up. I don't know who this guy is. To this day, he probably remembers it. He's going to shoot a layup. I'm probably just past midcourt. I go, well, this is it. I launched my ball right at his ball as it's going towards the hoop. And my ball hits his ball, knocks it off in towards the stands. My ball, thanks to, I'm assuming, like Newton's principles of physics or whatever, because I'm not a physician. If I was a physics guy, I wouldn't be in radio. I'm not a physician. That's not even a physics guy, right? Exactly. So my ball bounces right under the hoop, scoop it, score it. T-shirts for Team A or Team B or whatever team I'm on. And honestly, that moment doesn't happen for me. And the roar of the crowd, when my basketball hit that kid's ball, the roar of the crowd, you would have thought Clemson had won the basketball game. And it's merely halftime of like Clemson versus some school you never heard of. Hour 2, we finish with our interview with John Cicetta here on the show that shakes the Southland. You're listening to Clemson Sports Talk. Check out the website right now, clemsonsportstalk.com.
Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan on Columbia's home for sports, Fox Sports Radio 1400. Now, Columbia's most dependable traffic, sponsored by Pope Davis Tire and Automotive, home of the best tire prices in Columbia, guaranteed. Fox Sports Radio 1400 traffic.
Traffic tie-ups this afternoon include Old Eastover at Garner's Ferry and I-20 westbound near the North Main exit. The 103.5 FM WVOC traffic tip line number is 343-1055.
This report is sponsored by the Lawyer Referral Service of the South Carolina Bar.
If you have a tough legal problem and don't know where to turn, the Lawyer Referral Service of the South Carolina Bar can help. The LRS program can refer you to an experienced lawyer in your area. Your first 30-minute consultation is no more than $50. Visit scbar.org/LRS.
Group training is a fun, accountable way to get in shape. I'm Coach Stewart of Dynamic Health and Fitness. Come train with one of our special groups today. We will focus on giving you the support you need to get in shape. We use the Dynamic Mob, featuring intervals of cardio, functional training, and strength training to change your lifestyle to make you healthy. Get started today at any of our locations in Lexington or West Columbia, or call 803-408-4060 or online at dynamichealthclub.com.
Attention SSI recipients. If you did not file a tax return last year and have children under 17, you must act now to get the $500 economic impact payment per child. If you do not act by May 5th, you must wait until next year to get those payments. Go to irs.gov and enter your information in the non-filer tool by May 5th. That's irs.gov. This message produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Some pumps play a vital role in the drainage system around your home and in your basement. Metz Plumbing suggests you have them checked annually and offers that service as part of our service agreement inspections. Metz Plumbing also offers alarm systems to warn you when your sump pump's not working, and they offer a battery backup system for when there's a power outage. Call Metz Plumbing at 732-DRIP for an inspection or a sump pump installation. That's Metz Plumbing, 732-DRIP.
Metz Plumbing, 732-DRIP.
Uncle Dan? Mom? Dad? If you store your guns properly, so not just anyone can get to them,
I'll feel safer when I'm playing outside. Safer when walking home.
Safer when my friends come over. As your neighbor, I'll feel safer.
As a school teacher, I'll feel safer.
we'll all feel safer.
Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Remember, always lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Hey, is that a faucet running? Nope, that's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest. It is? Yeah, forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink. The water comes straight from the forest to us. In fact... What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum. That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe. How do trees clean the air? They soak up the dirty air on their leaves, branches, and trunks, which means clean air for us. Cool. I didn't know that. Yep, but the forest does more than give us clean air and water. It gives us shade for hot days, birds to listen to, and trees to climb. Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know how cool the forest could be. Hey, let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does, just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Fox Sports Radio 1400, WCOS Columbia, an iHeart radio station.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set!
Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
It is hour number 2. That's Drive Time right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Lawton Swan hanging out with you. We're getting back into our interview with John Cicetta from earlier. And John, you were talking about the Clemson soccer program. You just arrived on campus, meeting Dr. Ayan Ibrahim and all of that, the success that they saw very early on in your tenure.
1 year in, the soccer team went to championship. So it was pretty cool. And, the fridge is up in Chicago. Being from Illinois, that was pretty cool. That Fridge had already gone. I didn't know him, never met him. But,
right.
And then you got Horace Grant and Eldon and Dale playing basketball. It's like, wow. So those first 4 years were amazing. Clemson was winning everything. Coach Wilhelm, had the baseball team winning a lot of ball games. Track was starting to come on board, men and women. The women's going from a cross-country team to a full team. Then you get to work with Coach Creasy, who was here 33 years. There's a lot of great coaches when I first got here. So I saw the end of a lot of great coaches then, and then a lot of new coaches come on board. Like you said, with Coach Barnes, the Slab Five, him and Dean Smith getting in a big argument. Little John that year, and, it's like, it was a great place to work.
Oh, unbelievable. And the run of great players that came through Little John Coliseum back in those days is one of the things that I think for me resonates as much as maybe the fun that we had was Tim Duncan, Vince Carter. You go on, and it's just a laundry list of Hall of Famers and longtime NBA All-Stars that played right there in Little John Coliseum. So much you mentioned the Jordan documentary. One of the highlights of his college days was at North Carolina, jamming in Little John. I'm like, holy cow, the talent that has played in that building, and you were there to see so much of it. John Cicetta, again, he was the assistant AD in terms of game management and promotion. You arrived at Clemson in '86, John. Did you ever think you would leave? I mean, or did you settle in immediately and think, what, I think this could be home for the next 30 years?
Well, my interview question was, John, how long are you going to be here? And I guess back then, they had a revolving door in some of these jobs. And I said, I don't know if I'm going to be here a year, 5 years, 20 years. That's unknown. You don't know. So if I lasted 26 years, then again, I come back to Martin. Martin says, yeah, listen, this Yankee, he talks about, he might be here 5 years and he's still here, So Martin used to kid me all the time about that. that I'm still around. But no, it's home. It's it's just like being up in Illinois, a small school where I went to. It's just that you got football. Where I went didn't have it. But it's a small community. In summertime, it's peaceful around here like now. And, there's nobody around, and, so you can get around town with no problem. So you got the Four Seasons, you got the lake, you get to the beach whenever you want to. You go down to Masters if someone's fortunate enough to give you a ticket. So hint, hint.
Right. Now, let me ask you one other thing. You were named an honorary alumni of the university back in, I believe, 2013. What did that mean to you to be recognized in that respect for what you gave to the school?
Well, that's one of the greatest honors you can get when you don't expect it, and then someone says, hey, the Alumni Association wants to recognize you for everything you did, and you find out that people wrote a letter on your behalf, and you don't know who they are, but you find out about the process, and that means you did a great job for 26 years. That they say, okay, we want you part of our family, and I was the valedictorian in my class that year because I was a class of one that day. So I feel honored about that, but I was also the bottom of the class that day too. But no, it was against the Citadel. It was Military Appreciation Day. University the athletics wanted to recognize me by allowing me to dot the I. And I said, guys, when I was on that committee, I said, no, one person doesn't dot this I from this committee. I said, that'll never happen. When I was working with the Clemson Corps and the Army and Air Force ROTC, but they came down the week of, they said, hey, your name's in the program, you have to go out. I said, well, I'm not going out unless I take the cadet commanders for Air Force and ROTC out there with me. So all three of us walked out there, and so I dotted the I. And so when I came off the field, that's when they presented me with the honorary alumni certificate and all that. So I was really shocked then because I wasn't expecting that. I just knew I was supposed to go out and dot the I, and which is another great honor. But it's nice when that happens. But you don't expect it, and you don't get it unless you got a lot of people working for you. I mean, it's not just myself; it's the hundreds of former students who used to work for me, change light bulbs in the scoreboards, or might clean the trophy case, or might run down a foul ball, or whatever, introduce a group at a football or basketball game. There's all those students that work for you. There's all the students who are mascots who create the image, to make events fun for everybody to attend. So yeah, I share that award with, all these former students who are Clemson, and I think students should run these events as much as possible because it's a learning experience for them, it keeps it fresh, it's new ideas all the time. And it's like when we first started playing music, I had a student, Daniel Tate, and he knew NBA style music. And Daniel is down at Mercer right now, working down there, associate AD, assistant AD, whatever. But Daniel always wanted to play music every time out. So Dan, you have to share with the band, you have to share with the crowd or whatever. So, with students, you get to teach a lot. And that's the fun part of these jobs is teaching students history. And you also get to learn from them as they teach you what music's all about, because there's no way I can play the music they're playing today. And, DJ Shea does a great job. That was a great addition to Mike Money's staff to help Mike out, because there's a lot that goes on in those game days now. And again, like I told you, it's a 10-page script. We didn't have that 30 years ago. 30 years ago it was a couple pages, and you did everything off your hip. And but now it's a lot choreographed. But it's a better event. They do a great job.
John Cicetta here for just a few more minutes. Again, the assistant AD of game management promotion. That's what he was at Clemson until he retired. The book, Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tiger. So, John, let me ask you about the recent run of success with the Clemson Tiger football program, and maybe even more so. I know you're involved in all the sports, but what has it meant for you, who you're spending the majority of your adult life, right there in Clemson, to see this team reach 5 consecutive top 5 finishes, 2 national championships. I mean, on and on and on what Sweeney has accomplished with that program. What has it meant to guys like you?
It means a lot because, we're like Coach Sweeney says, his first team's important to him because that built his foundation well. To me, it's the Bobby Robinsons, the Dwight Rainey's who taught me how to do my job and allow me to do my job as much as I wanted. There wasn't handcuffs on us and a lot of stuff we did in those early years. And, we're all adding to the piece of the pie. And, it's like I said earlier, it's like some people like the mascots, the cheerleaders, the band, or whatever. It's that foundation that everybody built from the early 1900s, when IPTAY was started in 1934, and, Gene Willem and all those guys, what they did to build up unique thing that is Clemson. Now, you can write a book about Clemson and you can take it anywhere in the country. You can't implement that book. This is such a unique family of Clemson people that make this such a great school to work at, to attend, to live near, that, you can't take this book and write it someplace else. It's a very cool book. That is Clemson University. And, some of us are lucky enough to be able to work here for 26 years. Some will work 40 still, but, even though we only get to work here a year, it's always a great experience because it teaches you a lot as you move up the ladder, wherever you might end up at. And I've had some students go up to the next level, even higher than where I am. And, it's always great to see them when they come back to campus and talk to a class and, how they learned, what they learned when they were here and, what they're teaching their student workers or full-time employees or whatever they might be. So it's just once in a lifetime opportunity. You open a door. I always tell people, I'll open a door for you to get an interview, but you got to sell yourself. You got to make it work. You got to work hard. So I don't mind helping people out over the years. Hey, I need tickets for this or that, or, can you help me get a job? And I say, here's 5 people. Your job to contact them. I'm not going to contact them for you. You got to make it work. And, so the good ones will make it work. They will get out there and find that, that Division I job or that major league job or wherever they are, maybe a high school AD. You go back and be a high school AD. Those are great jobs now, especially if you get at some of these big football schools in the state of South Carolina. I'd take that job in a second.
John, I appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing your life story. We look forward to sharing more stories from Clemson through the eyes of the Tiger. Tell everybody real quick the easiest and best way for them to get their hands on this book.
Go to clemsonmascot.com and you can order the book through Amazon. Right now it's in paperback form. And depending on what type of football season we have this year or not, if I will reorder and do hardcover books. But right now you can get the paperback version. You can get the Kindle version too. So if you want to put on your tablet there and put on your tablet and do it, and then, or just sit here and listen to your show every night and get the audio version. So there's 3 ways, but clemsonmascot.com. It has my information in there. You can just reach out to me. And then if I do reorder the hardcover, I can, put you on a list. And when I get them in, I'll tell you here they are and here's how we pay for them. I'll send it autographed and send it to you, and we go from there. But, I do appreciate, your time here today, Wadman. You got a great program and, you had to start someplace, and you got all the stories because you were there, at Death Valley, you were in Little John, you were at Tiger Field, Riggs Field, and, it's, before we were talking about basketball, the Barnes era was great that you got to see because you stood on the floor. You literally could touch the Michael Jordans of the world, and that's what's so cool about the old Coliseum. People don't realize it. Those 3-row bleachers, those are the best seats in the house.
I've tried to tell people that for
years.
That
was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I've tried to tell people for years.
Those students, yeah. I mean, if you got more stories, there should be stories right there from the bleachers of Little John. What happened all the time.
We'll pin it. Me, you, and we'll get Superfan, Moose, Lee Hanna. We'll pin it.
Yeah, Lee. Yeah, we'll get Lee down there. And the one guy missed a lot was Andy Ballier, and Andy had passed away, had an aneurysm. But Andy used to be down on the floor there, and he'd get tossed every now and then by the ACC ref, and he'd look at me and said, "I know the way out, John. Don't worry." He'd go out through the tunnel, and then walk up to the top.
Well, I told this story the other day. The Clemson played Wake Forest, the number 2 versus, I think it was number 4 at the time, that night game. I was telling this to Tim Beret. Well, about 13 seconds or so were left in that ball game, and I was giving Rick Hartzell the business because I thought he should have called an offensive foul on Tim Duncan. He threw me out with 13 seconds left in the game, John. I said, there's 13 seconds left in the game. I didn't even say anything wrong.
You just wish it was Lenny Wirtz, didn't you?
Yeah, right. Exactly. John Cicada, again, the book, Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tiger. John, man, thanks for your time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much, and good luck with your show.
Always good to catch up with John. I consider him a dear friend just from the time I spent in Little John Coliseum. All right, here's how you can participate in the program. And one listener is going to love this. 803-450-0086. That's 803-450-0086. If you want to text or call, you can do that. And we actually had some text messages come in to the program here this afternoon as well. Really awesome catching up with John. He is when you think about guys who are in the background, and I think T. Suber, a former Tiger mascot, said it best. He's a guy that a lot of people don't know who he is or maybe even what he did, but certainly a huge contribution to Clemson University. This message comes to us from our buddy John in Archdale. He says, I stood on those bleachers too. Yeah, look, it is, there's no offense to what Little John Coliseum looks like now versus what it did then. I'm going to be honest because I'm not somebody that lies to you. When they renovated Little John Coliseum most recently, I said lipstick on a pig. But then if you really get inside it and see some of the things they've done, it's nice. They've made some real nice changes. I still would have preferred from the ground up something brand new. Even though it is nice to have something called the Swan Pavilion. But from that standpoint, I want to at least say this. If you could have kept the risers, if you could have kept the most unique seats in college basketball there for 3 rows of college kids, I would assume you could probably get 65 to 70 people on each row, 210 people on one side. The other side was missing a middle third because of entering and exiting Little John. So, I mean, what kind of number are you talking about there? 400 students max, maybe less. But man, those seats were awesome. And John's right. We had some great stories from that day and age. Coming up on the program in just a little bit, William Qualkenbush will be joining us, and we'll focus a little bit of his memories into Little John Coliseum. That seems to be a bit of the trend where we are right now, is the stories and the guests have all sort of yielded results towards Little John. It got me thinking over the weekend about college football and not the upside or the downside or the inside or the outside or whether we'll have it or not. But what really got me thinking is, even in a day and age where sports would have been normal, I honestly believe we would have had even more focus on the Clemson football team in the upcoming season than we have had. And I kind of think, and maybe I'm way out of bounds on this, but I kind of get the feeling that this has been good. In terms of the show, that we're not as zeroed in on Clemson football, that we're opening up our thought process to other stories to get out there to you. I can't wait to get into more of these mascot stories over the next few weeks. And Dale Gilbert reading them, man, you're going to feel like you're in Death Valley. I mean, Dale Gilbert, CJ Spiller. Dale Gilbert is going to be reading those for you here on the show that shakes the Southland. And think about this, too. If you want to know kind of how much time has gone by, get this. Today is Monday. May the 4th be with you, right? Tomorrow, Clemson would have been playing the Citadel in baseball at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Then they would have played against Charleston Southern on Wednesday. They would have gone into their final road series of the year against Miami. One game against the Citadel in Clemson, I believe, on the 12th. And then they would have finished up their regular season play at Florida State the weekend of May 4th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, not excited that we don't have baseball. But if I may be honest with you, I am pretty thankful that we're getting into May here. And we've had plenty to talk about. I haven't had one show. In 40 some odd days where I've walked in and said, oh boy, what we're going to talk about today. That's a positive for me in this business, believe me. 803-450-0086. That's your text line. That's your phone number. William Qualkenbush up next.
Radio 1400 wants to help with a chance at $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword HOME to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's HOME to 200-200.
Now, Columbia's most dependable traffic, sponsored by Pope Davis Tire and Automotive, home of the best tire prices in Columbia, guaranteed.
Fox Sports Radio 1400 traffic.
A wreck on Decker at Plainfield, also a tie-up St. Andrews at Burning Tree, and one other accident, Clemson Road at Longtown. The 103.5 FM WVOC traffic tip line is always open. It sits to my right. My name is Rob Sanders. I will answer the call at 343-1055.
This report is brought to you by Positive Coaching Alliance. Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
iHeart Media knows small businesses across the country are facing new challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic. So to help, we've put together the iHeartRadio Small Business Crisis Resource, which has critical information, including links to federal and state resources providing businesses with stimulus loans, grants, and other financial aid. We also shine a spotlight on small businesses doing good right now. Visit smallbusinesscrisisresource.com to learn more. That's smallbusinesscrisisresource.com, because your small business is big to us.
For 28 years, the professional staff of the Hobbs Group and Hobbs Group Advisors has been dedicated to helping others achieve their financial goals by delivering quality, objective financial and accounting solutions to a diverse client base of individuals and businesses all over South Carolina. We offer tax and audit services, bookkeeping, payroll, litigation support, employee benefits, personal financial planning, investment management, and insurance services. Please call us at 803-799-0555 or visit our website, hobbscpa.com, to learn more about our people and services.
When a community grows, its hospital should grow too. And that's just what we're doing at Lexington Medical Center. We recently launched the largest hospital expansion project in South Carolina history. Our new 10-story patient tower will help us take better care of patients, including the tiniest infants who need special attention. It will also make room for the growing number of patients who need surgery and intensive care. At Lexington Medical Center, our mission to serve our community never wavers. We're here when you need us today, and we'll be there when you need us tomorrow.
Protect yourself and those you love from COVID-19. People in our community are getting sick and even dying. If you're 65 or older or have conditions like diabetes, heart disease, or lung disease, you're at greater risk of getting seriously ill. Stay well by staying home as much as possible and taking your prescribed medications. If you must go out for work or essential items, avoid close contact with others and wash your hands often. Visit scdhec.gov/COVID-19.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just got invited to the prom. Do you A, meet her date?
I need to see your past date report cards, your driver's license, a list of references, and this hair sample.
B, help her pick out a dress?
Don't you just love the long sleeves and turtleneck on this pantsuit?
Ugh.
C, Attend the prom undercover.
Mom, what are you doing here?
I'm not Mom. I'm Calvin, the new kid at school.
Or D. Capture her big moment.
Let's take a photo of you two. I'm in the middle.
When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers. But that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Looking for South Carolina's favorite country? You'll find it at 97.5 WCOS.
The show that shakes the Southland, rocking and rolling, moving right along here on a Monday afternoon. Thank you to John Cicetta for being a part of the program. And we hit up the guest line here as our good buddy William Qualkenbush steps into the arena to hang out with us. As you know, Qualk has been a long-time guest here on the program. Qualk, buddy, happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Swanee. Hope you're doing well down in the middle of the state.
I will tell you, I have 2 episodes of The Last Dance to watch. That's exciting.
So you didn't watch either of the ones last night?
No, I watched episode 4 last night, Qualk. I'm milking this thing.
Oh, you sly dog. You're just zigging while everybody else is zagging. That's what this is.
I have to stay off social media. People tweet too much. You guys need to stop tweeting. But anyway, and that just kind of spoils some of the storylines. Qualt, let me tell you, man, we just had John Cicetta on the program. I know you know John from all the work that you've done up at Clemson for so many years. And obviously his book, Clemson Through the Eyes of the Tiger, a very unique look at not just the role of being the mascot at Clemson, but even kind of seeing things through the lens of the Tiger. What are your earliest memories being a kid that grew up in Clemson of, you know, the mascot and the involvement of the mascot in game day atmospheres?
Well, I mean, a couple things. First, to your question about the mascots, I mean, honestly, I'm probably like most, I don't even want to say most, I'd say probably about half a kid. Like, you start out kind of scared, you know, you're a little bit frightened. I really like watching the Jungle Book. Like, the tiger wasn't exactly the protagonist or the hero of that particular movie, and so that was a little bit frightening. And then I kind of think that's part of the reason why they came out with the Tiger Cub, that it was a little more of a kid-friendly mascot. And you know, I would sit in the West End zone, and so you see mascots interact, and sometimes you see them fight, and sometimes, you know, looking back on it, you could tell that the fight was a little more contrived, and sometimes you think maybe the fight was a little bit real. And so it was, and you know, it's always good. It's always fun. I was kind of the furthest person in the stadium away from like push-ups and all that, but you kind of see that happening over in the student section. But no, that book, I've read it. John is a very good friend of mine. He's actually, the first job I had working in Clemson athletics as a high school senior. He hired me to help with baseball games, and so John helped me get my start when I was 17. And so I'm very grateful to him for that, and a lot of things, for teaching me a lot about Clemson and a lot about what a special place it is. And so I know if you spend any time with John Cicetta, then I'm just the scraps, man, because he's the main course. That guy's as good a Clemson man as you'll find anywhere.
I love stories when you have an individual who maybe didn't grow up as a Clemson Tiger, came in, again, in 1986. It's a business. You know, it's a job, but yet when he leaves, not only is he honored with an honorary degree, but Clemson's clearly in this man's heart. And I think for graduates like myself, lifelong fans, that concept might be easy, but when you come, you know, in their mind, but when you come in and you've lived, you know, 20 some odd years or so at that point, it's different to kind of shift in and say, okay, I'm going to adopt this as my new family. And then boom, 30 years go by, and it, you know, his name's synonymous with Clemson for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, John, I think, you know, you mentioned his story. I think one unique part of his Clemson experience is how he used his sort of introduction and sort of becoming a Clemson gentleman, as I just used the phrase, he used that story to help tell the story of Clemson to other people. And like you said, he had the perspective of somebody who got here from afar and was here forever. And so he understood not just the way that it impacts somebody from afar and the way to get somebody to sort of grip somebody with the narrative of Clemson, but he also understands, and I would say still does, I use the present tense, he understands how that narrative impacts people still to this day. And so he could speak to not only the first-time person, but he also has a unique way of speaking to people who've been involved with Clemson for decades. And so because of that, because of those two converging experiences that he has and those two converging viewpoints, he's able to bridge a long and large cross-section of Clemson people and prospective Clemson people by the way that he speaks and the way that he works in favor of Clemson. And I think the book, you got some mascots who have been Clemson people all their lives. You got some mascots who did in college. You got the wide range of perspectives as you talked about, and I think that's one thing that's really neat about it.
On Twitter, he is at Qualk Talking, of course, each and every day in the upstate from noon till 3 o'clock. Out of Bounds with Qualk and Kelly on 105.5 The Roar is where he takes care of business. And Qualk, from that standpoint, we'll talk a lot about football here, but, John and I's relationship leans back to Little John Coliseum. When you were a kid and in that community and watching basketball games, who were some of those first set of Tigers that you kind of looked up to and said, man, I'd love to play the game like that guy?
It's funny that you say that. I was thinking about this the other day because, watching the documentary, Horace Grant's in there.
Right.
I met Rick Smits he brought his kid up for a visit. And so Rick Smits in the All-Star game in '98 that you'll see whenever you watch it over here last night. And so I was thinking about some of the great players that have come through, even that just stepped foot. And, I grew up like in the Merle Code, Tony Christie, Andres Yerkunis, Bruce Martin ran basketball camps when I was a kid, but apparently my parents say I attended some games when he played. You've got Terrell McIntyre, obviously. I've gotten to know him for being on staff. But I want to know, Boogie and I want to know his teammates. We played a pickup game one time, and he shot the lights out, and I just kind of stood there, so that was good. Harold Jameson, Andres Yerkunis, Ikara Turbe, like that. That's what I remember growing up. And so those are my first memories are kind of when you were in school, I think, a little bit. Well, just as a kid going to games.
Qualk, not to make me feel old, but those are guys that were in my freshman class. So we got a break coming up. Yeah, we got a break coming up in 30 seconds. So I'm going to put Qualk on hold, and we'll get back into some of those memories with him. When William, not saying Qualk's old either, guys, but when William Qualkenbush is referencing the players that he looked up to as guys that I was in college with, that does make the host extraordinaire of the show that shakes the Southland feel a little bit old. We'll come back. William Qualkenbush, he's on Twitter at Qualk Talk. Stay with us for more of the show that shakes the Southland.
Attention SSI recipients. If you did not file a tax return last year and have children under 17, you must act now to get the $500 economic impact payment per child. If you do not act by May 5th, you must wait until next year to get those payments. Go to irs.gov and enter your information in the non-filer tool by May 5th. That's irs.gov. This message produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Hi, I'm Alicia Kaufman-Quinton. My daddy, Billy Kaufman, opened Kaufman's Meat Plant at our present location in 1955. My family still works hard every day to ensure fresh quality cuts of beef, pork, and poultry. How about a tasty T-bone, ribeye, or New York strip steak? But to order at Kaufman's Meat & Place, just look for the signs near the intersection of US 1 and I-20 in Lexington. Call us at 356-0076 to place your order. Kaufman's Meat & Place, when you want the very best your money can buy.
Ever had that small crack in your windshield that turned into a very large crack overnight? Hi, I'm Ray.
And I'm Mary Ann, and we're with Absolute Glass.
We are your only local high-end auto glass specialist in the Midlands, used by high-end car dealerships. and we absolutely have you covered.
Whether it's a small or big crack, you could be confident in our certified technicians to get the job done right the first time.
Visit AbsoluteGlassInc.com for a quote or call 951-7200.
That's AbsoluteGlassInc.com or 951-7200.
Live from the $1,500 instant rebate AAA Heating and Air Weather Center.
Tonight we'll see a few scattered showers with lows in the mid-60s. Tomorrow also a few scattered showers and highs mid to upper 80s. For Channel 25 ABC Columbia, I'm Chief Meteorologist John Farley.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at Unbound.org.
I'm Bob Roth, host of the new podcast Stay Calm. Meditation changed my life in college, and I've spent the last 50 years teaching people about the benefits of meditation, from celebrity clients to students in inner city schools. And now I'm sharing a lot of what I know straight to your ears in my new podcast. Join me every Monday through Friday morning. All you need is a few minutes and an open mind. iHeart Radio is #1 for podcasts. Find Stay Calm on the iHeart Radio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things, like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving supports victims of drunk driving, drug driving, and underage drinking at no charge. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org. That's MADD.org.
You know, you don't need to wash your hands to listen to us. Just tell Alexa to play Fox Sports Radio 1400 on the iHeart Radio app.
If you are listening to the show that shakes the Southland on the telephone and stuff, you're probably good. But I'll tell you, in studio here at the house, when that little ad plays for the Amazon Echo, if I have it on my speakers, I'm in trouble because all of a sudden she starts playing Fox Sports Radio 1400. So we fortunately I did not. William Qualkenbush, though, however, is on the line. And Qualk, man, you know, it's a strange time, but I was telling the listeners, and I'm sure you guys are dealing with this up on your program in the upstate. I am surprised how quickly we've gotten into May. Clemson would be going into their last road series in baseball this weekend if there was a baseball season, and they'd be closing in on the ACC tournament in just a couple of weeks. I mean, it's hard to believe, but it's gone fairly quickly.
You know what? You mentioned baseball. I had that same thought yesterday. We're basically at the end. And, you know, by the time we get into maybe a further stage of integrating more as a society, it would be about the ACC tournament. And by the time we start to think, hey, we might be able to play sports, it'll be time for regionals. And so it'll really hurt my heart every time we do that. If everything goes well with the reintegration and things as we all get back to work. But I got to say, it is the season that moves the quickest for me because of how different it is, in my opinion, than the pro version. The pro version of baseball, man, you can lull into 162 games. It's like swinging on a porch, man. And you just kind of ease on through it, and it's just following every day. It's a back and forth, back and forth. There's a rhythm to it every single day, back and forth, back and forth. College baseball is like that too. But because of how long the major league season is, by the time you get in a rhythm with your starting pitching, you get in a rhythm with lineups, you get used to how guys are playing, and you get used to conference ebb and flows and things like that, boom, it's done. And I don't think you have that stark contrast necessarily with basketball. I think is maybe in the middle, but certainly football is not like that compared to the pro model. And so for me, as somebody who loves the daily grind, and I call it a grind because if you want to do it right, it takes a little effort. The daily grind of following a team, particularly in baseball, college baseball season is not long enough. People, that seems like blasphemy. I would love for college baseball to be like another month. Now, I know that's not true. And, that's not something you could do because you got student athletes and all that stuff. Obviously, the semester ends, and that's a logical end to at least most of the season, and then you got to get ready for the next academic year. But, man, just when you're starting to get used to things, just when you're starting to get into a flow, it's like the thing's wrapping up. And so I think it goes, at least in my brain, it goes as fast as any season that we have on the calendar.
On Twitter, he is at Qualk Talk. And Qualk, earlier today, some of the news that came out involving the former Dolphins Hall of Fame head coach, Don Shula, passing away at the age of 90. I know that his time would have been well after your sort of sports influence or influence of sports on your life. But you're talking about a guy that coached a team in 1972 to an undefeated season, a championship. Where does he stand in the pantheon of great professional coaches in your mind's eye?
Now, this is such a tricky conversation because I'm different from a lot of people. In fact, I'm different from my co-host. I think there are games that are played in the regular season that matter. And so whether we're talking great players, whether we're talking great coaches, whether we're talking great teams, I believe you can have a great season and not win a championship. I believe you can have a great career and not have done some of the apex mountain things. Again, the Michael Jordan documentary, Michael Jordan was elite in the finals. The guy was 6-0 in NBA finals. He was elite. I think players from his era, just because they played in Jordan's era, and if you put them in another era, they might have won championships. Reggie Miller, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, John Stockton, they're not less great players because they don't have the rings. Just because and I know this is blasphemy a little bit, just because Don Shula amassed a bunch of regular season games but doesn't have a relatively large number of postseason wins doesn't mean that he's down the list for me. I would put him at top 5 easily, probably up in the pantheon with guys like Belichick, a guy like Landry. That might be it. Maybe Chuck Noll is in there. And furthermore, I think we also put guys in the Hall of Fame just because they did it for a long time. For Don Shula to be a head coach for like 33 years without a break and only go to 2 places, I mean, think about it. He was at the Dolphins for like 26 years.
Yeah.
And this is crazy. We never see stuff like this today. Belichick's been for 20. And by the way, I think his career wins record, I think it's going to be a lot like DiMaggio's 56, that it's not going to be touched because we don't give guys the leash. Guys don't get started young enough and have good enough careers to be able to match his win total. Belichick might reach it, but it would take a lot of luck. Andy Reid might reach it, but it would take a lot of luck. And past that, maybe a Mike Tomlin might get close. But I'm here to tell you, I think he's put distance from himself and everybody else because I just don't think that's the way the game works anymore. So I think we'll see him as one of the 3, 4, 5 best coaches in the history of the game for a long time. And, oh, by the way, he's got the last undefeated team. It's been almost 40 years, and nobody else has done it, and that's got to count for something.
Yeah, the fact that you mentioned Tom Landry brings up the point of I think that longevity, man. It's so important. Just being able to, because to me the Dolphins were Don Shula. I mean, it just there's no question. I mean, that's who they were when I was a kid, and as much as they had Marino and Clayton and all the great players they had, it was Don Shula, and that's what I loved. Qualt buddy, always appreciate you, man, hanging out with us here and moving around a little bit today for John Cicetta. We had about a 13-minute segment left over we wanted to get in with him, but man, thank you for sharing your memories of him and, well, not memories, but your memories of, your time with him at Clemson and ultimately your thoughts on Don Shula, buddy. Have a great week.
Thanks, bud. You do the same. Always a pleasure.
William Qualkenbush on Twitter at Qualk Talk. Spectacular, as always, here on the show that shakes the Southland. Yeah, that was some bad news. Came across the feed today again. Legendary, winningest coach in the history of the NFL, Don Shula, passing away. But a good life, man. 90. I would have never, I guess I would. mean, maybe if you'd asked me how old I thought Don Shula was, I would have said 90. I would have probably said in his 80s. I don't know that I would have thought he was 90. The Dolphins issued a statement saying that Shula died peacefully at his home, and they called him the patriarch for the Dolphins for 50 years. And again, that 1972 team went 17-0 with a 14-7 victory over the Redskins way back in Super Bowl VII. So awesome stuff there with William Qualkenbush. 803-450-0086. That's your number. We hit a quick break. We come back and we put a bow on the program.
Attention SSI recipients. If you did not file a tax return last year and have children under 17, you must act now to get the $500 economic impact payment per child. If you do not act by May 5th, you must wait until next year to get those payments. Go to irs.gov and enter your information in the non-filer tool by May 5th. That's irs.gov. This message produced by Social Security at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Hello, this is Keith Gramai with Chapin Furniture. When Jen and I got married, I had my own home decorating ideas. Imagine my surprise when I found out some of my favorite pieces would not be on display in our new home.
Keith, are you talking about the raccoon and the stuffed fish?
Those held a dear place in my heart, Jen. Well, I've since learned that Jen is a pro at making a home look good, and I have to say, our house looks great since I gave up control.
Aw, thanks, Keith. And for those of you that just don't know where to start, I've got fantastic news. At Chapin Furniture, we have a team of design consultants and interior designers that can help take your home from ordinary to extraordinary. And if you buy your furniture with us, the design service is free of charge.
Come to Chapin Furniture and get the design help you need today. Just take I-26 to exit 91 in Chapin and look for the big red chair.
Hey, there he is. How's it going? I'm having a stroke. Are you going to shake my hand or what? I'm having a stroke. Wow, you're not even moving your arm. I'm having a stroke. Are you okay? I'm having a stroke. Your face looks weird too. I'm having a stroke. Are you having a seizure or something? I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear.
I'm having a stroke.
You just need to know the sudden signs. Look for FAST, F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. Or S, speech difficulty. Then T, time. Time to call 911 immediately, because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Know the sudden signs. Face, arm, speech, time. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Take an ordinary putty knife and scrape off the old wax ring. Place the new wax ring over the flange, then line up the bolts with the bowl and gently set in place, making sure a proper seal is created with the flange and drain. Next.
Dad?
Yeah, sweetie.
Is that an old plumbing manual?
Oh, yeah, honey.
We really need to get some new books.
Right, do you want me to stop?
Nah, I kind of want to know how it ends.
Okay. Tighten the bolts, line up the flushing valve to the opening in the top of the bowl, and secure the tank with a screwdriver and crescent wrench.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Unit 121 responding to possible carbon monoxide poisoning.
Carbon monoxide is an odorless, colorless, tasteless gas that kills more than 500 Americans every year. Never use generators, grills, camp stoves, or other gasoline or charcoal burning devices inside your home, basement, or garage, or near a window. If it's cold, stay with friends or family or in a shelter. To learn more, call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
Fox Sports Radio 1400 wants to help with your bills. Listen to win $1,000 every day from 6 a.m. through 9 p.m.
What have you done for me lately? It's a fair question. Just don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't forget history.
Lucky for us at Clemson, the answer to the questions, what have you done for me lately, and what have you done always, are the same. We win.
Final segment on a Monday afternoon, Lawton Swan, the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk. Always good to have you here being a part of the program. Thank you so much for everything you do. Come support us on our website, clemsonsportstalk.com. Just 18 cents a day. That's $63.17, $63.17 for you to be a part of it for a year. And again, that helps us continue to grow and build. We've got fantastic advertisers that support us, but we can also use your support on the website side. I can't necessarily say they are interdependent of the radio show, but they are not one and the same per se. The other thing I would ask you to do as well is this. Make sure that you share our posts over on Facebook, the stories and things that we put out. And we put out our conversation with Mark Packer, his life in sports. And we went ahead and opened that up to everybody, man. It was so good talking with Mark Packer. And again, thank you to John Cicetta for being a part of the program and William Qualkenbush here on a Monday afternoon, as he is always. And so one of the things I will say, I got to grade myself. See, you don't, behind the scenes, sometimes it's not as smooth of a show as it may come across. And today I would grade myself in the B- category. And really at no fault. Well, really no fault of my own. I'm going to go ahead and pass the buck here. At the top of the show, to kick things off and kind of throw us off schedule, my batteries in my mouse died. And I couldn't start the show. So if you were wondering, if you're like, Swanee, oh, no Clemson Sports. No, my batteries died. Got to blame the batteries. John in Archdale says he was in Tigertown on those risers from 1983 to 1987. Now, there have been some Horace Grant years there. That would have been pretty awesome. Watching Horace Grant on this series, though, I can't help but recognize just how much smaller he was than the power forwards of today. And honestly, I was never a guy that bought into the Kobe Bryant better than LeBron James argument. And I would probably stand in and argue Jordan versus LeBron. You kind of know where I stand on that. I think that most of you would pick LeBron, but I thought about this and not pick him as in, oh, you think he's the better player, but I'm thinking if you had all these guys out on the court, you would pick LeBron first. My argument's always been, though, maybe if Shaq's standing there, you might pick Shaq. So physically best versus mentally best versus statistically from the standpoint of what you accumulated in terms of championships best. I mean, all those things kind of go into it, right? And my favorite guy was Magic. But it got me thinking. I know that LeBron would have been dominant in Jordan's era. I know that. I don't think there's any question. As a matter of fact, if you look at the league at that time, and some of you are going to be steaming, so let me give you the text line, 803-450-0086. Some of you are going to be steaming about that. But if you think about it for a second here, I know that LeBron would thrive. His speed, power, all of that in Jordan's era. Now, granted, strength training, conditioning, all of that stuff did not exist to the degree when Jordan was playing. We saw that in episode 4, if you haven't watched it yet, because Jordan starts to bulk up and put on 20 pounds or so, up from 200 to 220. LeBron's like 265. Would Jordan translate to today? I think yes. He would obviously be a very good player, but the speed and the strength of everybody else around him is much greater today than it was then. Look at Horace Grant, and then go look at a guy like Giannis. Just go look at a guy like LeBron James at small forward. Yeah, so the size of the players. And again, I know we could go all the way back and talk about Wilt Chamberlain and this era, and we could talk about Russell, Bill Russell in this era. But I think of all those guys, when I look at the way they go, and maybe this will be my whole life based on where we are now. Maybe greater athletes, better athletes will always be better than the old guys and would fit in those leagues better. But LeBron, to me, is more transcendent throughout the history than maybe Jordan is coming forward. That's a hot take for some of you. I get it. You don't have to stop wearing your Jordan shoes, Tony Elliott. You can just take that for what it's worth. I feel like backwards compatibility in the league for LeBron James is greater than forward compatibility for Jordan. Even though Jordan would be very good now. But I think guys are so much bigger and stronger than they were then. But I might be wrong by a mile. But that's it's kind of my take on it. But I'm wondering if in 20 years, when I'm 63, if I'll look at some guy playing in the NBA and go, dude, LeBron can play with this guy. And maybe that's the case. We'll never know. It's all just simulated in our minds. But thank you to our guest, John Scetta. Thank you to William Qualkenbush. And we will be back with you tomorrow for more hot takes here, apparently, because my phone's blowing up right now. Thanks, text line. We will get after that with you here tomorrow. And until then, as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers!
Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan on Columbia's home for sports. Fox Sports Radio 1400. Now, Columbia's most dependable traffic, sponsored by Pope Davis Tire and Automotive.